Chapter 1, A New Beginning. Rine Frostfang felt his consciousness floating in an endless void. He couldn't remember how he got there, but the sensation of weightlessness pressed against him like an unrelenting tide. Time seemed meaningless in the vast expanse of nothingness, and yet, he could sense something drawing near, a presence unlike anything he had ever felt. Out of the darkness came a burst of light, a kaleidoscope of colors spiraling and weaving together until it coalesced into a form both overwhelming and serene. The figure radiated power, its body shimmered with the constellations of countless galaxies. Its golden frame gleamed like polished light, and its vast, otherworldly presence dwarfed everything around it. "You have awakened," the being intoned. Its voice wasn't bound by sound, it resonated directly within Rine's very essence, both a whisper and a command. Who are you?" Rine managed to ask, his voice trembling. "I am Arceus," the entity replied, its many glowing appendages spreading like a celestial mandala. "The creator and guardian of the Pokémon world. And you, Rine Frostfang, have been chosen." Rine blinked, trying to process the declaration. His memories of Earth flickered like a fading reel, ordinary days filled with monotony, punctuated by his love for the Pokémon games. "Chosen for what?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "For a second chance," Arceus said. "Your previous world has passed beyond you. Yet, your spirit carries potential that I will not let go to waste. You will awaken in my realm, a world of wonders and challenges far greater than any you have known." Rine's heart raced, but his mind lingered on the question gnawing at him. "Why me?" "Because you possess the qualities this world needs," Arceus said simply. "Knowledge, tenacity, and a heart unclouded by malice. Though your journey will not be without peril, I believe you have the strength to shape the balance of this world." The divine gifts. The space around Rine shifted, constellations reforming into intricate patterns. Symbols danced in the air, glowing with ethereal light as Arceus continued. "You will need help. To ensure your survival and growth, I grant you these gifts." A glowing orb of light appeared before Rine. "The first," Arceus said, "is a pocket dimension, a sanctuary for your Pokémon. There, time moves differently, and your companions will find a place to grow and recover. It will evolve with you, as will its capacity." The orb split into a second light. "The second is the power of aura. This energy flows through all living things, and through cultivation, you will learn to shape it. Aura will grant you strength, resilience, and the ability to connect with Pokémon and people alike. But beware, it is a power that must be earned, step by step." Rine reached out, and the lights flowed into him. A strange warmth spread through his body, both comforting and electrifying. He felt his senses heighten, as if he could faintly perceive the life around him, even in this empty space. Lastly, Arceus extended a shimmering appendage, touching Rine's chest. "The third is knowledge. You will retain what you know of my world, from the games and stories you cherished in your previous life. But remember, this world is far larger, far more complex than anything you could imagine. There will be surprises, and there will be dangers." Rine staggered as the enormity of the moment washed over him. This wasn't just a game. This was a real world, with real stakes. Yet, amid the awe and trepidation, a flicker of excitement ignited within him. He was being given a chance to live a life of adventure, a life that had always seemed out of reach. The warning. Before he could speak again, Arceus's form dimmed slightly, its tone growing more solemn. "Understand this, Rine Frostfang, the gifts I have given you are not guarantees. You must cultivate your aura, grow your strength, and forge bonds with Pokémon if you are to survive. The world I send you to is not without its shadows. Life and death, triumph and despair, love and loss, you will face them all." Rine swallowed hard, nodding. "I understand. I won't waste this chance." "Good," Arceus said, its brilliance intensifying once more. Then your journey begins now. The space around Rine collapsed into a singular point of light, and he felt himself hurtling through a vortex of stars and color. Just before everything went dark, he heard Arceus's final words. Awaken. And may your choices shape the destiny of this world. Chapter 2, Awakening in Pallet Town. Rine's first moments in his new life were filled with disorientation. He sat up in bed, his small hands trembling as he inspected them. His body felt foreign, lighter, smaller, more agile. The room around him was simple but cozy, with pale wooden walls, a small dresser, and a faded rug with a repeating Pikachu pattern. A faint knock interrupted his thoughts. "Rine?" a soft voice called. The door creaked open, and a kind-faced woman with chestnut hair tied in a loose bun stepped inside. Her smile was warm and familiar, though Rine had no memory of her. "It's time for breakfast, dear," she said. He hesitated, his thoughts racing. This must be Rine Frostfang, his new mother. In this life, she and her husband, Elric, had adopted him as an infant after finding him abandoned near the outskirts of Pallet Town. Though this wasn't his real family, a sense of comfort bloomed in his chest at the sight of her. "I'll be right there," Rine managed to reply. His voice was soft and boyish, startling him for a moment. Mari nodded, her eyes twinkling. "Don't take too long. Elric's already started eating, and you know how he is about keeping the food warm." As she left, Rine took a moment to steady himself. This wasn't Earth anymore. This was a world of Pokémon, but it wasn't the familiar grid-based simplicity of the games. It was vast, real, and infinitely more dangerous. Exploring Pallet Town. After breakfast, Rine stepped outside into the bustling streets of Pallet Town. His new family's house was on the edge of the town, surrounded by sprawling meadows that stretched toward the distant Viridian wilds. What struck him immediately was the sheer scale of everything. The town wasn't the quaint, sleepy village he remembered from the games. Over the past century, it had grown into a thriving hub of technology and culture. The cobblestone streets were alive with activity. Children ran by with their pet Pokémon, holographic billboards advertised Pokémart sales, and sleek, futuristic hoverbikes zipped past trainers heading toward Route 1. Towering above the town was the Oak Research Institute, a sprawling campus of labs and greenhouses. Though the original Professor Oak had passed on, his legacy lived in the work of the researchers who now ran the facility. Rine wandered through the streets, taking in the sights and sounds. Despite his small stature, he felt a surge of confidence. He had knowledge, abilities, and most importantly, a purpose. This was his world now, and he was determined to thrive in it. The Merchant's Tale. A week after Rine's arrival in this world, a wandering merchant came to Pallet Town, setting up a colorful stall in the central square. The merchant's wares ranged from rare berries to intricate trinkets, but it was his stories that drew the most attention. As the townsfolk gathered, Rine found himself mesmerized by the merchant's words. Beyond the Viridian wilds, the merchant said, his voice carrying an air of mystery, lies a cavern unlike any other. Its walls shimmer with starlight, and within, they say a rare Pokémon guards treasures beyond imagination. Rine's heart raced. A cavern that shimmered with starlight? It sounded too fantastical to be real, but he couldn't ignore the tug of curiosity. "Is it dangerous?" a villager asked. "Of course," the merchant replied with a grin. "But the greatest treasures are never found without risk." The next morning, Rine made his decision. He packed a small satchel with berries, a canteen of water, and a makeshift wooden staff for protection. Mari and Elric were hesitant to let him go alone but relented when he assured them he would stay near the edge of the forest. The Cavern of Stars. The journey to the cavern took most of the morning. Rine wove through the dense foliage of the Viridian wilds, the sunlight filtering through the canopy in dappled patterns. Wild Pokémon scurried in the underbrush, but none seemed hostile. Finally, he found it, the entrance to the cavern hidden behind a tangle of vines. As he stepped inside, his breath caught. The walls glittered with crystals that reflected an otherworldly light, as if the very essence of the night sky had been captured within. At the heart of the cavern, Rine spotted something extraordinary. Nestled among the crystals was a small Pokémon, but not just any Pokémon. It was a shiny Axu, its scales unlike anything he had ever seen. They shimmered like a galaxy, a swirl of deep purples, blues, and silvers, with flecks of light that seemed to dance as it moved. Rine crouched slowly, his heart pounding. "Hey, little guy," he whispered, reaching into his satchel for a berry. "I'm not here to hurt you." The Axu tilted its head, its golden eyes watching him warily. Slowly, it approached, sniffing the air. When Rine placed the berry on the ground, the Axu cautiously stepped forward, its small claws clicking on the crystal floor. With a hesitant nibble, it accepted the offering. A faint glow surrounded the Axu, and Rine felt a strange connection between them, as if the Pokémon could sense his intentions. A trial by fire. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a deep growl echoed through the cavern. Rine spun around to see a massive onyx emerging from the shadows. Its scarred body loomed over them, its eyes blazing with territorial fury. The Axu yelped and darted behind Rine. Adrenaline surged through him as he raised his wooden staff. "Stay back," he shouted, though he knew it was a futile gesture. The onyx lunged, its massive tail crashing down. Rine barely dodged, pulling the Axu with him. His mind raced. He couldn't run, onyx would crush them before they reached the exit. Before he could react further, the Axu leaped forward, its claws glowing faintly with a shimmering aura. It struck the onyx's side with surprising force, staggering the giant Pokémon. Rine took the chance to grab a loose crystal shard from the ground. "Aim for the eyes," he shouted. The Axu roared in response, releasing a small dragon breath that briefly blinded the onyx. Rine hurled the crystal shard, hitting the onyx square in the face. It roared in pain, retreating into the shadows. The cavern fell silent, save for the sound of Rine's heavy breathing. The Axu approached him, its galaxy-like scales glimmering in the dim light. It chirped softly, nudging his hand. "You're something special," Rine murmured, smiling despite the fear still coursing through him. "How about we stick together?" The Axu let out a happy trill, and a faint glow enveloped it once more. Rine realized in that moment that this wasn't just any Pokémon. This Axu was unique, chosen by fate, just as he had been. The bond is forged. As Rine left the cavern, the Axu perched on his shoulder, its small claws gripping him tightly. The journey back to Pallet Town felt lighter somehow, as if the weight of the world had shifted. He wasn't alone anymore. That night, Rine sat by the window of his room, the Axu curled up on his bed. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter. This was the beginning of something extraordinary, a partnership forged in trust and trial. Rine reached out, gently stroking the Axu's shimmering scales. "Welcome to the team, Stardust," he whispered, naming the Pokémon after the galaxy that danced across its body. Stardust chirped softly in response, and for the first time, Rine felt truly ready for the adventure that lay ahead. Chapter 3, Integration into Pallet Town. The bond between Rine and Stardust, his shiny Axu, grew stronger with each passing day. After their trial in the Cavern of Stars, the pair returned to Pallet Town, where life bustled with a mix of tradition and futuristic innovation. Yet, Rine quickly realized that forging a place for himself and his extraordinary partner in this new world would be no simple task. Settling back home. Rine's return from the Viridian Wilds was met with a mixture of relief and exasperation from Mari and Rine Frostfang. Mari fussed over his scratched hands and dirt-streaked face, while Elric gave a gruff lecture about venturing too far without proper preparation. "You're lucky to have come back in one piece," Elric said, his stern expression softening as he spotted Stardust perched on Rine's shoulder. though. I can't say I've ever seen a Pokémon quite like that. Rine grinned, gently patting Stardust's shimmering scales. He's special, he said. We've been through a lot already. Mari crouched beside Stardust, offering it a berry from the kitchen. Stardust hesitated for a moment before accepting the treat, its galaxy-like scales shimmering as it chirped softly. He's beautiful, Mari said, her voice filled with wonder. But raising a Pokémon like this is no small responsibility, Rine. Are you ready for that? Rine nodded without hesitation. I'll do whatever it takes. The curious townsfolk. Word of Stardust's arrival spread quickly through Pallet Town. By the next morning, neighbors were stopping by to catch a glimpse of the mysterious Axu with scales like the night sky. Children gawked and asked questions, while older trainers looked on with curiosity, and, in some cases, envy. Never seen an Axu with colors like that before, said one trainer, a tall man with a Machop by his side. You better be careful, kid. Rare Pokémon like that tend to attract attention, not all of it good. Rine took the warning seriously. Though Stardust seemed content to stick close to him, the world outside Pallet Town was vast and unpredictable. He began to notice how others eyed his partner, not with malice, but with the kind of intrigue that could turn dangerous if left unchecked. To avoid drawing too much attention, Rine started taking Stardust on early morning, meeting the professor. A week after returning from the cavern, Rine received an invitation from the Oak Research Institute. He stood in awe as he approached the sprawling facility, its towering greenhouses and sleek labs bustling with activity. Inside, he was greeted by Professor Maple, the current head researcher at the institute. A tall woman with sharp green eyes and an air of authority, Maple specialized in dragon-type Pokémon. I've heard a lot about you, Rine, she said, extending a hand. And about your Axu. Stardust peeked out from behind Rine, its golden eyes scanning the room warily. Maple crouched to its level, her voice softening. You're a rare one, aren't you? Those scales, they're something special. Rine explained how he had found Stardust in the Cavern of Stars and their encounter with the Onyx. Maple listened intently, jotting notes on a holographic pad. You've got quite a story, she said, standing. And quite a responsibility. Pokémon like this are often bonded to their trainers in unique ways. You'll need to nurture that bond if you want Stardust to reach its full potential. Before he left, Maple gifted Rine a Pokédex, an advanced version capable of analyzing Pokémon behavior, stats, and compatibility. Consider this a tool for your journey, she said. And remember, the relationship between a trainer and their Pokémon is built on trust and understanding. Never lose sight of that. Stardust's training begins. Rine dedicated his days to training Stardust. He started with simple exercises, teaching the young Axu to focus its energy and refine its natural aura abilities. Stardust quickly displayed a knack for channeled attacks, its glowing claws slicing through targets with precision. The fields around Pallet Town became their training grounds. Wild Pokémon like Rattata and Pidgey often wandered into their practice sessions, giving Stardust opportunities to hone its skills. While Stardust was far from battle-ready, its confidence grew with each success. One morning, during a sparring session, Stardust surprised Rine by unleashing a small but powerful dragon rage. The energy crackled through the air, leaving a scorch mark on the ground. Whoa, Rine said, eyes wide. You're stronger than I thought. Stardust trilled proudly, hopping in place. Building friendships. Though Rine spent much of his time training, he began to form connections with the other children in town. The first was Finn Cressvale, a bold and energetic boy with a fiery Litleo. Finn stumbled upon one of Rine's training sessions and was immediately captivated by Stardust. That's the coolest Pokémon I've ever seen. Finn exclaimed, his Litleo growling in agreement. We've got to battle someday. Rine laughed. Maybe when Stardust is ready. Right now, we're still figuring things out. Finn became a constant companion, joining Rine for training sessions and offering advice on battle tactics. Despite his impulsive nature, Finn's enthusiasm was infectious, and his natural talent for strategy pushed Rine to think creatively. Another friendship blossomed with Amira Steelroot, a quiet girl who often helped her parents run the local Pokemart. Amira had a deep understanding of Pokémon care and nutrition, often offering tips to Rine on how to keep Stardust healthy. She even shared a recipe for an aura-enriched poke food, which quickly became Stardust's favorite. "You're lucky," Amira said one evening as they sat by a creek outside town. "Most people never get to meet a Pokémon like Stardust, let alone raise one. Take care of him, okay?" "I will," Rine promised. The town's first crisis. Pallet Town wasn't immune to trouble. Late one evening, a wild Fearow began terrorizing the outskirts, attacking livestock and chasing villagers indoors. The town's trainers gathered to form a defense, but the Fearow's speed and aggression proved difficult to match. Rine hesitated, unsure if he and Stardust were ready to help. But as the Fearow approached a small group of children cornered near a barn, his instincts took over. "Stardust, let's go!" Rine shouted. The Axo leaped forward, its claws glowing with aura energy. Though the Fearow was larger and faster, Stardust's determination was unmatched. With Rine's guidance, it unleashed a barrage of dragon rage and slash attacks, driving the Fearow away. The townsfolk cheered as the Fearow retreated into the night. For the first time, Rine felt a deep sense of belonging, a realization that he and Stardust could make a difference. A place in the world. By the end of his first month in Pallet Town, Rine had begun to carve out a place for himself. Stardust had become a familiar sight in the fields and streets, its galaxy-like scales earning it admiration wherever it went. Though the road ahead was long, Rine felt ready to face it. He had a loyal partner, a growing circle of friends, and the knowledge to guide him. The world of Pokémon was vast, and his adventure was just beginning.